Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam. Good morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Today is Wednesday. I've been doing so well. Wednesday, January 19th, 2022. Did I get it right? Wednesday, January 19th, 2022. Welcome to the Java Cafe. We are here this morning and we're getting ready to talk with someone that I've known for a long time. Her and her office have been one of the most responsive when it comes to follow-up. In the community. Shout out to Maya, who used to be in her office. Senator Sonia Chang-Diaz's office has always followed up when they said they would. And even sometimes when I've complained about a group, Sonia's office has always, Senator Chang-Diaz's office has always followed up. And so we're getting ready to bring her in. I want to ask you to make sure that you share today's cup of Java because we had Ben Downing, who was a gubernatorial candidate. We're trying to ensure that the candidates get before you before we get into the hot season of this very interesting election season. We know that Attorney Tanisha Sullivan launched her campaign for state secretary yesterday, another woman of color running, and we have this wonderful woman of color that's getting ready to run for governor. So I'm going to ask my guest to prepare herself as I get ready to bring her on camera in just a couple of seconds. But good morning to everybody that's in the room. Go ahead and share this because I would like for you all that don't know to get to know Sonia Chang-Diaz, who is running for governor of the state of Massachusetts. And so we would like to bring her in the room at this time. Good morning, Senator. Good to see you in the room. I had to put the applause there because you know that I know that you know that taking on this role is very interesting. And so we needed to celebrate and applaud you because it's a lot to take on, running for the lead state seat here in the state. So good morning. How are you? Greet the people, say hello, and we'll go from there.
Good morning, James. It's good to be with you. Thank you for the really nice intro. Thank you for the shout out to Maya, whom I also shout out, and just profound love for the members of the State House team who have been embracing our, the residents of the Second Suffolk District with a bear hug of constituent services over the last nearly 2 years of this pandemic, and just showing up every day with heart. So thank you for loving on them.
Absolutely. And you go right to applauding your staff. So tell us how you're doing. You referenced to past 2 years in the pandemic. You are a candidate, but you're also currently a legislator and have been and have made great strides in education and things like that. And so for those that don't know who you are, first greet the audience. Tell us how you're doing from a mental health space in one word, and then we'll get into a little bit about who you are and why you've made this very life-changing decision to run for governor.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot in there. I'll try and unpack it, but, remind me if I forget a piece. For hopefully there are many, familiar listeners and viewers of me, among your viewership. As we were talking about, before we went on air, this is not my first time on Java with Jimmy, so it's good to be back with you. But for those who are new to me and I'm new to them, I'm Sonia Chang-Diaz. I represent currently the Second Suffolk District in the Senate, which is all within the city of Boston. The district runs from the South End out to Mattapan and Hyde Park. And I come to this work as a mom, just dropped the kids off a little while ago. I come to it as a former public school teacher and as a grassroots organizer, really. And I've been serving in the state Senate for 13 years now, which is crazy. When I say that out loud, I can't believe it's been that long.
I can't either. It's been 13 years?
Yeah. We're getting old. And it's flown by, really, because during that time there hasn't been a month or a year when I haven't been fighting like hell alongside, I hope I can say that in the show.
You're good.
Alongside working families. And the good news is that in that time we have actually won some really big wins on education funding equity, and on criminal justice reform, and on equal rights legislation. And we've really shown that government can work for the people when we make it. But I've also seen in that time that those kinds of, changes at scale, right? Changes that really match the scale of the problems that we're confronting as a state are still the exception rather than the rule.
Yep.
And I'm fed up with that. And I know a lot of folks out there are fed up with that. And because it's getting harder and harder to live here every year, right? Even before the pandemic, housing prices through the roof, income inequality, some of the worst in the nation. We have, fastest growing student debt load in the nation, and, climate change barreling down on it. So we've got, tremendous challenges that we're up against, to say nothing of global health pandemic, right? That we are still clawing our way through. And, we've got to address these problems at scale. And not just kind of on the edges.
I know what you mean by at scale, but go a little bit deeper when you say that, because you did that the strides that we've made aren't comparable to where we need to do more. And so at scale, go a little bit deeper to that for folks that may not get the context of that statement.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think probably an example or two is the best way to come at it.
Perfect.
So, I think that, when we look at the wealth gap in our state, the divide between have and have not communities, is it improvement if we, put a couple, $1 million grant program, or even like a $20 million grant program, right, in place over here, or, a pilot program over here, what we call a pilot program, even though, there's already gobs of evidence that shows, things like this might work. That's not going to, fundamentally change the dynamics, right? Like the forces are just too large that have, brought that wealth gap into place over, many generations. And so if we really are serious about tackling it at when I say at scale,
yep,
we've got to come with some big solutions, some large scale solutions. And those are going to take money, and they're going to take, real time and discipline and follow through to get done. And by example, let me give you one. If we're going to tackle the wealth divide, we've got to get real about our education system. As you know, that's been the lion's share of my work over the past, 5-6 years in the K through 12 space. But we've got to make universal early education, high quality early education a reality in this state. And many states are ahead of us on this game. They've shown it's possible. We could have done this, 5 years ago in Massachusetts. It's only political will that's holding us back. But, in Massachusetts, we've got 20%, not 20%, half of our residents, 50% of Bay Staters live in childcare deserts, right? Where even if you have $20,000 a year to sitting around to pay for a childcare slot, which of course most people don't, even if you have it, you cannot find a slot in many cases because there just isn't enough supply, right?
Can I ask you a question?
We got to solve that at scale.
Okay, and thank you for the clarity around the scale, but in you doing that, it opened up another door, because I've never heard about the child care desert, food desert, all other things. But so is that in general? In the pandemic, has it got worse, or are you stating that in the context of these past couple of years? Because I would believe that if that was an issue pre-pandemic, Lord Jesus, in the pandemic.
That's a great question. The pandemic certainly has made it worse, has exacerbated that problem. But I don't know this, to the percentage point number pre-pandemic, but it was not far off from that.
Okay. Got you, got you. And so I heard some things from there, why you're running for governor, but I want to explicitly, blatantly ask why you're running for governor. You know, you have influence in the and here when I say influence, because you talk about political will and things like that. And last year, 2020, was very interesting when it comes to qualified immunity and things like that. And so why the switch, or why the desire to ascend to the gubernatorial or the governor's seat at this time? Just what's your why,
Yeah.
Senator Chang-Diaz?
That's the right question. It's the question. For me, it really is about these sort of twin truths that I have witnessed over my time in office in Beacon Hill. It is the case that we have been able to, I've seen it happen enough times, right? That we have had these breakthrough moments where we really do something ambitious and big, and we can get it done, right? The education equity that I mentioned, that's legislation that I worked on for 5-6 years. It was a 5-year slog to get it done on Beacon Hill. We had to drag Charlie Baker to the altar on it, as well as some leaders in my own party.
Wait, did you say drive him to the altar? Not take him to the altar, drive him to the altar.
Drag him. But we got it done, and that is going to infuse $1.5 billion with a B in new money every year once we get it fully implemented over the next 5 years. That's going to, $1.5 billion into our K through 12 school system, heavily tilted toward communities of highest need, lowest income communities. That's going to be, it's not going to be a silver bullet. It's not going to solve everything in our, world or for our kids, but it's going to be a game changer for many school districts across the Commonwealth. And I've already been talking to, during the pandemic, and on the campaign, I've been able to, be in circulation with school leaders across the state. And I've asked every one of them, what are you spending, the first dollars under that bill, the Student Opportunity Act, on? Because that money's starting to, go out through the pipeline. And every one of them so far has said social emotional wraparound services is where they're spending their first new money under the Student Opportunity Act. So anyways, I've seen that happen. I've seen it with police reform, right? Like we now have, even though we didn't get qualified immunity, which I grieve, and I have filed it again, I'm going to keep coming back for it. But even though we didn't get that, we still now have the strongest police reform and oversight law in the nation among the 50 states. We did it with, criminal justice reform in 2018, with transgender equal rights in 2016. So I've seen this happen enough times on Beacon Hill that I know it's possible for us to do, come with a lot more urgency to the work of addressing the frustrations of working families. But I have also seen over my 13 years that more often than not, Beacon Hill is telling working families to wait and wait and wait and wait, or just take a little piece, well, this is better than last year, but it's not solving the problem at root.
It's not at scale. It's not
a scale. Not a scale, right? And so we just have too much patience on Beacon Hill. And I know that the governor's office is a huge lever for changing that dynamic and infusing a whole heap of a lot more urgency into our work on Beacon Hill. The governor sets the tone. The governor, files budgets, has a bully pulpit, and also has a whole set of executive agencies at her disposal, not just legislation as a tool. And so there are some things that you can do in addition to legislation. So the governor's office is just a huge platform for driving change at a more ambitious pace and a more urgent pace.
I thank you for the why, but I want to note the fact that we heard the senator say at her disposal. And so I like that.
I did.
You did say at her disposal. And so you talked about urgency. And I have to be honest and say, in the beginning of the pandemic, I had a different level of respect for the current governor. However, here of late, in consideration of schools, in consideration of sometimes economy being perceived as being priority over safety, especially as you talk about Black and brown constituents, you can't really talk race without talking some level of class. So there are non-Black and brown people that are dealing with the issue as you're talking about the whole state. Currently, how would you legislate differently in the governor's office when it comes to this urgency around, or just generally in COVID? Because you've been in, had hopefully had access to be in meetings and data and information. what are some things that right now, if you were governor,
Mhm.
what are two things that you would implement immediately to address the constituency to which you referred and a lot of the advocacy that you've done in your why?
Mhm. How long we got, James? You know?
Honestly, and I know your staff is going to get me. We got 12 minutes,
All
and
right,
then
all
I'm
right.
going
Let's
to
try to
check
go
in with
fast.
you about another issue too. So we got about 5 or 7 on this.
All right, let me try and do the speed version. Look, uh, being a chief executive in a time of pandemic is hard, right? Absolutely, and you cannot anticipate everything.
True.
But there are many things that we could have anticipated, and in fact, were both predictable and predicted in this pandemic that we could have done a lot better on, right? And that started. I remember the first week of the pandemic. Myself and other leaders from communities of color said that this is Hurricane Katrina. Let's learn the lessons. We don't need to, make the same mistakes over again. Communities of color, low-income communities, immigrant communities are going to get this worse, way worse than their upper-income and white counterparts. And let's prepare for that now. And then we did not see that adequate response from the executive branch. We had to push for data collection and transparency. They're still not in compliance with that law since day one. We had to push for vaccine equity, right? Folks will remember the Hunger Games days of the vaccine rollout when we first started getting it in Massachusetts, and all of the structural disadvantages that were built in to the vaccine rollout. About, the people thought it's, called it a lottery, but really it was a raffle, right? Where every advantage that you had, whether it was, money, internet access, transportation, language access, time to just sit on the, on the internet and hit, try again and try again and try again, got you another ticket in the raffle, right? And made it more likely that you were going to get access to those vaccines. And
Maybe.
then now, we could have no one can tell everything that's going to happen with the next phase, of variants, but it was 100% predictable that there was going to be a spike around the holidays in transmission. And we could have been more prepared with testing capacity and supplies for our critical infrastructure. And, this governor, frankly, has not thought enough about critical infrastructure outside of hospitals. That's the first thing you got to watch in triage for sure, is our hospital capacity. But right behind that, schools are our critical infrastructure, both for our kids and for our economy, right? Because the economy is going to, grind to a halt when we can't get people to work because they're home with their kids because schools are closed.
And I thought you did well. You did well in the speed round. I was going to give you some more because I know that you have so much to speak to around this issue. And so when you talk about schools, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you're going to be Madam Governor,
Good job.
what Charlie Baker has been very adamant about, you have to have this 180-day school rule. You did articulate well your understanding and balance of education, keeping our children safe, but there is an impact on the economy. And generally speaking, the economists and the scientists are saying that, and even from a mental health standpoint, it's good for our children to be in school. However, and it seems like now the numbers are, kind of going down. I heard Dr. Betancourt mention yesterday about 2 or 3 weeks, we should, get ready to be able to exhale. What are your thoughts around school, or have you determined a threshold, of positivity rate? Like, what would it take for you to, I won't say prioritize the health. What would it take for you to say that health right now is the issue? Because economy won't do anybody good if our kids aren't here. And so what would take for you, or to give consideration to closing the schools, to temporarily give us a halt in this mission?
Look, Jim, it's all about, and it's a perfectly reasonable question to ask. So don't, I'm running for this job, so you can put me on the spot. It's all right. So, it's all about, weighing the different risks and, frankly, the different kinds of health that we are all responsible for our young people, right? There's physical health, there's mental health, academic health, right? And all of these things are in a mix together, and weighing the different risks that families and educators and children are absorbing during this pandemic. And there's no choice that doesn't involve risk of some kind. And look, as a parent, right, let me take off my senator hat and my governor candidate hat. And as a parent, I know for sure that for my children, what I want is for them to be in school. Just considering all of the risks. They are so much healthier when I consider the all-in of their mental and emotional health this year than they were at this, last school year, because they're in school. When people ask me how I'm doing, that's the first thing out of my mouth is my kids are doing better because they're in school. But I also know that, we can't just talk about respecting our frontline workers. And we can't just be at a podium and say, stay safe, everybody, or keep the schools open, everybody, and then walk away. Right. And just nice words and then walk away. And, I think about the Curley School in my district, which, a few months back had, COVID was just ripping through huge, transmission. And that's unusual, right? We have not seen high transmission rates, on average, right, in schools, but there are instances of that. That's and right. They did everything they could. They did everything they could. And they are, bottom line, the principal at that school and Dr. Caselius, our BPS superintendent, are, at the end of the day, they are the people who are responsible for the safety of my kids, when they are in that school. And they made the hard decision that they were going to close the school for, I forget if it was 7-10 days. Yep. And I have said, and I'll say it again, I think that we do need to give more flexibility to, our field generals out there to make those difficult decisions. I know that they don't want to see the schools closed either.
I every time you leave me on a cliffhanger because your cadence leaves me, sheep about to go in, but you end there. And I love how you said, what did you say? Not field sergeants, field generals.
Yeah.
In the war against Senator, that we could have church a little bit right there. The field generals. I want to
help them, right? Not just give them judgment and platitudes, but we have to help, right, with those testing supplies, with that foresight around the corner.
I perfectly agree. I perfectly agree because of our time, and I know you have other things, and still, candidate and legislature. You referred to first responders, and there's this group that have entitled themselves as frontline first responders something, and there have been these protests. I asked Congresswoman Presley about it. You as a woman of color, I'm going to ask you about it as well. There's the sentiment around, people having the choice of getting the vaccine and fighting against the mandate, from the mask to right here in Boston, the entrance into certain places with the vaccine. There's been a tone, Senator, of these protests that have been very interesting. And you as a woman of color, and while to some extent we can believe in the central Boston area, that we don't have, well, obviously I'm getting this in real time as I'm talking. It's obvious we do have these type of people that gravitate toward this negative, racist, misogynistic, just supremacist, insurrectionist type behavior. The more you go out toward Western Mass, little presumption here, nothing against those in Western Mass. It's a little presumed that you might get some resistance. But even away from that, in that context, as well as what you see your sisters in service, as you all often refer to, going through, what do you say to people like Mayor Wu and to Congresswoman Presley? I'm sure at some point in your career, you've dealt with some, is my mother on? Crap. What do you say to your fellow sisters in service?
Yeah. Before I answer that question, I gotta stick up for Western Massachusetts for a minute.
Absolutely.
Both before being on the campaign trail in the governor's race, as education chair, I had a lot of circulation to other parts of the state. And now I'm on the campaign trail. And I just got to say, there are wonderful, blessed people everywhere, and there are clowns everywhere, right? And that includes here in Boston.
Yes, Senator.
That's humanity, right? That's
humanity. I love it. There are blessed people everywhere, and there are clowns everywhere.
Yeah, and sometimes they're the same people, different times of day. Right? We all have our good moments and our bad moments, right?
True.
You got to try and find the best in people and draw it out. True. But what I say, to my sisters in service, particularly my fellow women of color in service, is first, how are you doing, right? We do a lot of checking in with one another, in safe spaces, just in safe conversational space, and just, recognizing people, one another's humanity first, right? And sometimes pushing on each other for the answer past the, oh, I'm fine, then the other thing is, how can I help? Right? It's not just right. Like, I'm a big believer in the proverb about when you pray, move your feet. And so, I try to live by that, right? So it's not just, oh, my sister, I'm praying for you as you're going through a difficult time. Is what can I do what can I do to be a part of the team in the fight that you're fighting? And sometimes it's even better if you can do that without asking.
Senator, there's so much to unpack there. I know we got about 2 minutes. And Cliff, I see your question. Why should I vote and support you for governor? She's kind of covered that. We did ask, so feel free, everyone, to go back if you're just tuning in to watch the whole interview. Senator, I will.
I'll answer that question if you want.
Oh, go ahead. Listen, I'm trying to be, because a couple of things before you go. One is I've learned the lesson. Presumably, and speaking in a positive factor, the day after the preliminary, can we get you booked? I don't know or who's on or who's handling media, but if we can get you to come into the Java Cafe the day after the preliminary.
I would love that.
Okay, wonderful.
Right here. We got to talk to Josh and Angela and make sure get in the calendar.
Absolutely, and the day after in November, I'm learning to book early. But no, in all seriousness, you can answer Cliff's question according to the time that you have left, and then I just want to check in a little bit about the mental health thing that you said and just share some things with you.
Okay, so Cliff, thank you for the succinct question, and so what I'll say is a lot of people will talk about values and maybe even your shared values. But and I hope that you and I will find shared values, but talking about the right things and even believing truly in the right things is a necessary but not sufficient part of the equation. And what past is prologue, right? If you best predictor of what someone is going to be like in office is what have they done before. And what I bring to this race is a 13-year record of not just talking about it, but being able to build winning coalitions to get things done against long odds and put those wins in the end zone so that we are actually getting change in real people's lives, right? Like that $1.5 billion into our school system, like, the first in the nation police oversight board at the state level that is civilian controlled and has, civil rights and reform-minded representatives at the table of power and has subpoena power, and a duty to intervene for police officers and a ban on chokeholds, and that's just a couple of examples. But look for someone who can deliver results, and I think my record's pretty strong on that. You can check it out at soniachangdiaz.com.
Plug. Listen, Senator, this is I hope your team tells you and hits you up and said you did an excellent job from some of us are pundits here, and so wonderful for the branding and plugging at the end with the website. Senator, I thank you so much. We'll hold you to the day after the preliminary. We'll hold you to the day after the general, because right now in the field, based on what I see, it's going to be an interesting race, and again, we have to applaud you for making that step. But we believe that, hopefully you'll be back here in September and November. I just wanted to cover one thing and give some context. It is, thank you, Senator, for just covering that as well. Uncle Thaddeus, who I'm sure you know, Mr. Java, the people in Western Mass are lovely. You should visit before you make such a statement. And so there's some context there. Early in the Trump days, there was a lot of talk around, within this area. There was no expectation that, we just believe everybody in the Boston area, was progressive and whatnot. And there was a lot of talk about folks coming in from Western Mass, whatever. And so just some context there. I know that is, I don't know if you're in the middle or out in Western. I love wonderful people in Springfield, Worcester, and whatnot. So please forgive the general sort of statement there. But, it was in a context of making sure you, Queen, are good. Please make sure that you keep your mental health as a priority. And make sure that you have your team plug out times for you to do absolutely nothing, to keep yourself straight, because running in this time, as we see, is very, very interesting. And so, Senator, I thank you so much. Hopefully the team won't get me. I'm a couple of minutes over. You all stay tuned. I need to make some announcements. But Senator, thank you so much. Godspeed to you, and stay covered.
Thank you, James. And right back at you. You be well and take care of yourself. And I hope to be back soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Senator. Y'all, oh, thank you so much. Hey, Ramilda, good to see you in the room. Let me do some good mornings real quick before I go into the hellos. Auntie Java, good to see you in the room. I wish I showed these to the senator before she got off, but thank you all so much for thanking her. Uncle Thaddeus, I acknowledge. Heidi, Pastor Marion, Cliff, good morning. Asia, Mama Java, Brother Rob. Props is in the room. Sister Debbie. Kelly is in the room. Good to see you. Tasha. I think I got every... Sharon Cornelius. Sharon Cornelius. Sharon Cornelius is in the room. Good morning. Listen, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. That was a very, I think, revealing interview. There's a little cadence and a side of Senator Chang-Diaz I haven't seen before, and so I definitely appreciate her coming in. Just wanted to also let you know, staying in the vein of content and bringing candidates and current electeds before you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. We have current State Representative Elizabeth Liz Miranda, who's coming in. She is the current state representative for the 5th Suffolk, but however, she is also the candidate for the 2nd Suffolk. And so just Senator Chang-Diaz is the current for the 2nd. She's leaving that seat to run for governor. And so that's opened up, well, every year. Or every election cycle, the seat is opened up. But there's no incumbent. And so State Representative Nika El Ugaro and also State Representative Liz Miranda is running for that seat. And she will be with us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And by request from our Asia, who commented on Facebook when we were telling Darren Howell happy birthday, Asia said, well, I need some Freestyle Fridays. And so Asia, I reached out to Darren, and Darren is coming into the room for Freestyle Fridays on Friday at 9 a.m. And also, I just wanted to let you all know, you may have missed Dr. Brandy for the past couple of weeks. We've met. We put some content together, and we're rolling out a different flow for Mental Health Mondays. And so I don't have the graphic ready. But for Monday, the 24th, we will have Dr. Brandy back. Is it the 24th on Monday? Yes, Monday the 24th, we will have Dr. Brandy back in the room to kick off our second season, I guess, of Mental Health Mondays. Wanted to let you know, we had District Attorney Rachel Rollins on a couple of weeks ago, and we know that she is now the U.S. Attorney. There was some transition over at the DA's office. And this young man right here was very involved in the election process and very active on social media and with a lot of us activists around the difference the DA makes. He was hired by the district attorney, and during the transition, this young man's office was moved and he was let go. And to many of us, we need to know and understand what was going on. And so Bobby Constantino is coming into the room next Tuesday to talk about that transition and talk about his work and what some of the implications are on the current interim DA. Then the next day on Wednesday, as you know, the sheriff's office election or the county sheriff election is in 2022 as well. We had candidate Sandy Kalexe, I want to say that right, who is running for sheriff as well. And the current incumbent, Steve Tompkins, is coming into the Java Cafe next Wednesday at 9 a.m. And so we're trying to stay ahead, keep you aware. Having this admin has been a blessing because we're at the point now where I'm getting ready to scheduling in the second week in February. First week in February, we have some content for you. We have someone from the cannabis industry. We have one of the mayor's chiefs that's doing her first interview in the Java Cafe. And then also we have a young man that does some physical therapy work and some wellness work that is coming in as well. And we're looking at some things for Black History Month. The final thing I want to mention, and props is going to get me, I'm sure if I go look in comments right now, there is something here that is going to say merch. Okay, I think I'm doing well. So I wanted to mention again that we are going to make available to the Java Cafe some gifts for you to get your loved one for Valentine's Day. We have hoodies, not these. We have the other one with the JJ in the middle that I wear often. Black and red hoodies will be available. We also will have candles, custom, handmade, homemade, candles that I hold on for 1 second. Let me just give you a description a little bit better than what I did yesterday. We worked on it last night. So the 2 candle scents that will be available, and this is a light description right now. The first one is called 7th and Peachtree. It's a fresh and energizing yet tropical scent that simply takes you away. The second scent that we're selling is one called Flight B6. Love is in the air. Flight B6 takes you there. It's a mix of hand-selected ingredients that leaves the room fresh and sweet. And so we have both of those candles on that list. And so we need to, not we need to, but we're going to make them available to you. We need to, as far as what I have to do for Danny to get the website up. But that information is going to be available to you very soon. We went over our agenda coming up. We know that Liz is coming tomorrow. Let me check in with the comments here, and we will get ready to wrap up. All right. We see here that Tanisha Sullivan, as I mentioned earlier, is running, excuse me, for state secretary. Ramilda has put up a link to get the free test kits, so please go check that out. No one on that list is, which list, what you call it? Let me know, Roro, text me after. Also saying, I reached out to Nerdies. We are checking in. She is coming into the Java Cafe. Auntie Java, Roxbury Multi-Service Center is not giving out test kits as announced. Very disappointing for our community. Second week they did this, and Auntie shared that. So Auntie, to let you know, I reached out to someone that I know is associated with that group to just like, this was the second week in a row, and not just from you. I got a call yesterday about that. And so let's just, name that testing kits are not as readily available as the federal government, the state government, and I know our city is doing our best to get what they can get as far as inventory. So we want to name that as well. But I understand that there were lines and, so not sure what's going on there. But all right, I'm going to get, I ain't messing with you, Jen. All right, I'm going to get ready to get off of here, everybody. Thank you. Conan, what's up, brother? Good to see you in the room. Good to see you in the room. I think that is it for me today. We will see you guys tomorrow at 9 a.m. with State Representative Elizabeth Miranda. And then I see my wife in the room. Good morning, wife. Good to see you in the room. State Representative Liz Miranda tomorrow. And then on Friday, Darren Howell will be in the room for Freestyle Fridays. And when I tell you, Freestyle Fridays with Darren are always lit, but this one is going to be interesting. I can't wait to have Ramilda in the Java Cafe. Auntie, of course. Thank you so much. And Lisa, so with that being said, before I get in trouble, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. Don't forget Liz, Elizabeth Miranda tomorrow morning. Don't forget Darren Howell on Friday morning. Don't forget on next Tuesday, Bobby Constantino, and on Wednesday, Sheriff Tompkins. All right, everyone, we are going to get ready to wrap up today. We will see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace.